Hello everyone, Tactical Glitch here. Got a super close battle here, absolutely down to the wire till the very last second. A lot of back and forth, very scrappy, so sit back, hang tight, and prepare for a fun time. For the army builds here, I'm going with an Empire build versus a Tomb King's army from Nurgle's PA. I'm going with a bit of an Empire box front line of spears with shields, backed up by a ton of halberdiers closing in that box, and then a bunch of Hawkland rifles, silver bullets, and the Great Cannon crew as the squishy meat but also very punchy part of the box here, doing all the damage with all those missiles. They are supported by some Empire Knights on the flanks, and at the back they're hiding in the bushes. Leading the army, Marcus Wolfheart with basically almost his full toolkit there. Hunter's Snare, Focused Shot, and Ember Bow. Plus a Bright Wizard with Fireball and Burning Head to clear out some Tomb King's chaff. On the other side of the battlefield for the Tomb King's army here, a couple Ushabtis, one of them the Chosen of the Gods here, trying to use their great bows to bombard my Empire formations. They are supported by a line of skeleton spears and a ton of melee constructs. 3 units of Ushabtis, the melee ones, with their dual weapons, anti-infantry bonus, armor piercing, really good at crushing any state troops front line, and because of their heavy armor, they can also trade well into the Empire Knight, using their armor piercing to drag down those cavalry while tanking the damage with their armor. Some Necropolis Knights as well, these guys are with halberds, providing some solid anti-large armor piercing presence. Some more skeleton horses here, providing even more mobility, and leading the army Cetra the Imperishable on his giant kitty cat, the Cambrian War Sphinx, with only Osirian's Incantation of Vengeance and Jaff's Incantation of Curse Blades as his toolkit. That's basically it for the army builds. Now let's get this show on the road and go straight into the action. Battle begins, and the Tomb Kings are getting quite aggressive with their great bow Ushabtis, trying to get close and get the first shot onto my Hogland rifles, but instead, the Great Cannons having that range advantage and also a Vanguard deployed, Marcus Wolfheart is actually forcing them to pull back, leaving behind a couple of dead models with all those devastating firepower. The Chosen of the Gods are also pushing forward, but my Hogland rifles are ready and waiting, welcoming them with a volley of precision fire, followed up by more cannonballs from the Great Cannons, and Marcus shooting in as well. They'll start to juke a bit here, trying to dodge my shots, and actually successfully dodging one of Marcus' arrows. Spoiler alert, you'll see Marcus missing his shots quite a few times in this replay. Seems like he might have some aiming issues. Just like here, missing another shot on the Chosen of the Gods. The regular Bolshapti unit also moved up, getting a volley onto my Hawkland rifles, but there's a second unit of these Empire sniper rifles, using their counterfire to drive back the Bolshaptis once again. Marcus continues to fire in, and now seems like he's getting a bit more accurate shots onto these Bolshaptis here, getting some really nice damage done, even knocking out another unit model. Now my opponent Nurgle's PA here is pushing the rest of the Tomb King's melee elements forward. Skeleton spears marching with their shields raised. Though the regular melee Ushabtis are actually holding back, skeleton spears will still need some time before they actually reach the Empire spear line, so there's no point in moving up the Bolshaptis and get shot by the Hawkland long rifles. Skeleton spears continues to march forward untouched, not worth my ammo. Instead, I'll just keep firing at the Bolshaptis. On the far side, there's skeleton horsemen, Necropolis Knights with halberds, and also Cetra himself are just flanking around, ready to wrap around my formations and hit up my weaker spots on the flanks. I do have the Empire Knights ready to hopefully pin down the enemy mobility, while my front line here is actually getting pounded by the Bolshapti focus fire, especially one of the Hawkland rifles here. Though I do say I am winning the skirmish fight quite significantly, as Marcus did manage to get a few more shots onto the Bolshapti, now pulling back because the skeleton spears are closing in, but Great Cannons here and the Hawkland rifles was able to get some really good damage done onto the Bolshaptis, forcing them down to below half health. Now on the flanks, the Tomb King's attack is on. Skeleton horses trying to charge towards my Empire Knight, and also the Necropolis Knight trying to just hit up the weak spots on my flanks there, but right now the halberdiers are pushing them back, and also the silver bullets taking some pot shots at the Necropolis Knights to pick off some of their health. The problem is that Cetra and his Bolshaptis are squeezing through the gap in my formation. Really nice micro from Nurgle's PA there, turning those Necropolis Knights into a column formation to slip through these empty spaces on my box defenses. And now the only thing that's keeping my backline from being completely overran is the Hunter's Snare from Marcus. The problem is that I was trying to net down Cetra as well, but his attacking animation pushes him out of that range of the Hunter's Snare. As a result, Cetra is no longer bound by Marcus' net, and will be freely rampaging through my lines with nothing from my side to stop him. At the same time, the Ushabtis who were being held back earlier has reached the front lines, crushing one unit of the Hawkland rifles there, the other unit of Ushabtis also getting on top of my Hawkland rifles. So my missiles are are mostly shut down, and the Silver Bullets trying their best to deliver some armor-piercing firepower, etc. there, but a little bit of mistake on my end. The retreating Empire Knights trying to get away from the Necropolis Knights on the flank there stood on top of half of these Silver Bullets, so a lot of them are actually being obstructed in terms of line of sight, and was not able to dish out their full damage against the enemy constructs, especially Cetra there. And now Cetra is just plowing his way through all the state troops, stomping those Silver Bullets. So those Silver Bullets only getting a couple volleys out was mostly silenced at this point. Great Cannons are also trying to fire, but now that the Halberdiers at the backline are being committed to containing all these constructs, the Great Cannons are exposed to the enemy mobility, quickly being terrified by the nearby etc. as well. Burning Head from the Bright Wizard there, trying to thin out all those enemy infantry support. As my opponent did not bring a lot of skeleton spears, I feel like my best bet of killing their constructs right now is probably just to thin out the infantry support and surround those constructs with my infantry. Speaking of infantry, my Halberdiers are still very much healthy, as the spears and missiles took the full brunt of the enemy constructs' attacks. Now Cetra is getting targeted by 2 missiles actually, Amber Ball from Marcus and an Overcast Fireball from the Bright Wizard. A lot of single entity targeting damage, especially the Fireball there, exploiting Cetra's fire weakness plus the Kindle Flame effect, getting a decent damage boost. Dropping Cetra to 2/3 of his HP with Marcus continues to kite and do more damage over time. The problem is that all my missiles are now completely offline. The 2 Hogland rifles are completely destroyed, and the Great Cannons plus the Silver Bullets are being pursued by those Shaptis, and I doubt my opponent would let them return to combat again. The Empire Knights have regrouped and now trying to come back and fight here. Empire Knights over here have been hidden in the tree line. They jumped right onto one of the Skeleton Horsemen, dealt with them, but the Skeleton Horsemen also kept them occupied, allowing the Necropolis Knights with halberds and more Skeleton Horsemen to come and deal with them. Another Burning Head once again on some Skeleton Spears, just keep trying to thin out the enemy infantry support here. Halberdiers getting shot by the Chosen of the Gods, but still moving in to help out Marcus. As Marcus being pressured by these Ushabtis, the Halberdiers should be able to just drive them back with the armor-piercing anti-large. Cetra is now hounding this poor Bright Wizard here. He is in definitely a very awkward scenario, being stomped on by a giant Cambrian War Sphinx. These Ushabtis and Necropolis Knights managed to drive back my Empire Knights, but they are also being followed by the Halberdiers, getting poked in the back. Over here, the Silver Bullets are being cleaned up by the Shaptis here. Very unfortunate for me, they're only using a couple volley of shots from these guys, and they're now completely gone. But that also means they're not actually focusing on chasing down the Grundle's defenders. For some reason, these Regiment of Renowned Spears not taking a whole lot of damage, but still being routed away early. And with their half HP left, they can still be a very important anchor in this battle, especially during the late game with their immune to psychology. And yes, they have regrouped right before the white line and will be returning to battle. Though the Shaptis and Necropolis Knights are more focusing on cleaning up the Empire Knights on the flanks there, Spears and Halberdiers have held on in the middle there, just duking it out against, well, enemy infantry chaff, so not exactly the greatest threat. Ushabti summons have been dropped over here. Not sure why exactly, because you don't really need them right here against a bunch of anti-large infantry. I guess maybe try to hunt down Marcus Wolfheart, but either ways, with all these infantry support here, Halberdiers and Spears, Marcus is very well protected by his own state troops and will be surviving just fine. On the far side there, Cetra and some Ushabtis were able to just terrorize some poor Halberdiers here. And most likely Cetra will be going after the routed Bright Wizard, making sure they finish off that Empire Caster. Grundle's defenders still standing in the trees. Seems like I haven't realized they have regrouped and haven't issued them any orders. So they'll take some time before they get reactivated. Some regrouped Empire Knight is going after these exposed Chosen of the Gods. One of the Boshaptis have been eliminated in the shootout. But the Chosen of the Gods has survived, and I can't let them live because with only infantry left on my side, these Boshaptis will devastate their formations with their scatter shots and will be quite detrimental to my late game scenario. So Empire Knights getting the charge onto the Chosen of the Gods, surrounding them and beating them down with the charge bonus, which is very nice for me. Not too far away from this fight. The Necropolis Knights were trying to chase down these Empire Knights earlier, but noticing that the Empire Knights are a little bit too far away for them to catch, they instead go after these Halberdiers who are trying to fight some Ushabtis earlier, now being recharged by the Necropolis Knights and will be finished off by the enemy construct. At this point, all I have remaining on the field are pretty much infantry and Marcus. So I'm just trying to consolidate my position in the middle of the battlefield. dropping a Hunter Snare onto these charging constructs there, stopping them from charging my infantry formations, and then sending in the spears to maybe drag down some skeleton horses, while Marcus continues to fire and pick away at these models of Ushabtis and Necropolis Knight. On the far side there, the Ushabtis should be able to rear charge some halberdiers and finish them off with the help of the skeleton spears perhaps, but overall I'm getting some really nice damage with Marcus and his bows with these point-blank shots against all these Necropolis Knight and Ushabtis, even knocking out 2-3 models in that one shot there. Unfortunately, with all my missiles and cavalry gone, I don't have much agency left in the battle. And Nurgle's PA will continue to cycle charge my rest of the infantry blob there with his remaining cavalry and constructs. At this point, Cetra has eliminated my spellcasting power, either routing off the Bright Wizard or straight up killed him. I'm not sure which one is it, but anyway, Cetra has been victorious and he'll be returning to deal with this enemy infantry blob. With the splash attack, Cetra's Cambrian War Sphinx is definitely a great concern on the battlefield right now, so I'm just trying to damage him as much as possible with Marcus' remaining ammo and abilities. Unfortunately, Marcus has been firing the whole game and doesn't have much ammo or ability uses left. I think that was his last Amber Bow. Still, he's trying to do as much as he can, getting another shot onto Cetra. At the same time, Cetra is dropping an Usirian's Incantation of Vengeance there, draining away the health of my halberdiers. Marcus missing a shot on Cetra. How can you even miss that shot? He is the size of a house. So much for being Empire's best marksman. Another shot onto Cetra, this one landed and actually did some nice damage. Now knowing that I can't use infantry to catch the constructs, I'm just holding position waiting for my opponent to come to me. Another shot from Marcus, another miss once again. That was quite unfortunate on my end. Cetra tries to charge in on my spears, but I dropped in a Hunter Snare, pinning down both Cetra and the Necropolis Knight. Marcus, how did you miss that? Cetra was literally immobile from your Hunter Snare, and yet you missed your shot onto this super close target the size of a house. That was even a point-blank shot. Come on, Marcus. Now, with only 2 arrows left, Marcus really needs to make those count and make up for his disappointing performance so far. Spears and halberdiers are trying their best to fight the enemy constructs right now, just piling onto the Necropolis Knight and Cetra. Cetra got hit once again. Finally, seems like Marcus has calibrated his aiming. Cetra bounding straight for Marcus, noticing he is quite a bit of a threat. Knocking him over, but only doing very minor damage with the collision attack. Now Marcus down to his final shot, his one last chance to use his bow and arrow to do damage against Cetra, and he missed point blank against a target the size of a house, and he missed. Just how, Marcus? How? You're supposed to be the marksman of the Empire. That was quite tragic for me, missing all those shots and losing out on all those DPS against Cetra. Now one final chance, the focus shot onto Cetra, doing some really nice damage, putting him down to 2000 HP. At the same time there, Ushabti's charging onto the halberds, but getting stuck there. Earlier, I think they were just covering the retreat of the halberd Necropolis Knight, who are bogged down by the net and has to retreat, and then the Ushabti come in to pin down the halberdiers, allowing these Necropolis Knights to move to a different position and charge into my infantry blob. But overall, the Ushabtis have been sacrificed for the betterment of their comrades here. The Necropolis Knights will live to just charge another day, charge another blob. Finishing off some spears over here, these Necropolis Knights will be hunting them down, and I don't really have a way to just keep them in the fight to bring them back. So I'll just have to keep Marcus within the vicinity of his state troops here, the only anchor I have on the battlefield here. Trying to just swarm these Necropolis Knights with a couple of hits from Marcus here or there. Now Marcus might be out of ammo, but he is not out of options, at least not yet. He's 41 attack and defense, so he is a decent melee combatant, especially against the exhausted constructs of the Tomb Kings like Cetra, down to 28 attack and 34 melee defense, nerfed pretty hard by the lack of vigor. Now Cetra is cycle charging, trying to work down the HP of my infantry as much as possible, but every time these Necropolis Knights and even Cetra himself charging in, they'll be paying a price here as the anti-large armor piercing of the halberds and anti-large of the spears are punching back at them. These Necropolis Knights down to their last 400 HP and are slowly crumbling away. The other Necropolis Knights, though, being much healthier, will continue to cycle charge. Cetra is charging in, but he has taken some damage here and there from the enemy spears. Marcus comes in, stabs the War Sphinx in its toes, taking 300 HP off the construct. Marcus' lack of armor piercing isn't actually that much of a problem now that Cetra is exhausted and his armor is reduced. Necropolis Knights, receiving the Jab's Incantation of Curse Blade, decided to give up on those routed spears and will be covering the retreat of Cetra. Maybe get a charge onto my halberds, but halberds, some of them barely manage to brace right in front of the charge of these Necropolis Knights, blunting that impact from these Tomb Tomb King's cavalry. Now the halberdiers and spears and even Marcus Wolfheart himself pulling out their melee weapons, charging in, piling on top of these Necropolis Knights, slowly but surely chipping away their health. Cetra cycle charges once more, but he did take a little bit more damage after fighting those tattered spears. Though the Worst Things did get a clean charge through my infantry blob, taking no damage in this charge attack at all, just pushing straight through my formation. Now he cycle charges in. I will be trying to use Marcus Wolfheart perhaps to get over to punch Cetra in the face maybe. But yeah, Cetra just dropping in some spells here or there. He does not have his Lore of Nerkara passive, so Cetra does not have any access to passive heals, especially when the Realm of Souls is done. What you see on those Tomb King's HP bar is what you get. Marcus Wolfheart trying to charge Cetra, but unfortunately getting knocked over, but not actually taking any damage. Cetra, despite being a mighty combatant, seems like his exhaustion level is really hampering his combat performance at only 28 attack and 34 defense. Marcus' 41 attack and defense is actually able to overcome Cetra's defenses, and that stab actually took away another 200 HP from Cetra. In contrast, Cetra's lowered melee defense at only 28, even with the anti-infantry bonus, doesn't seem to be landing consistent hits on Marcus. So Cetra decided to change his targets and go stomp on some enemy spears. But balance of power once against the Empire is now slowly shifting back in their favor. As the Grundle's defenders, they are just refusing to rout at this point. Cetra might have Terror, but it's useless on a unit that has immune to psychology. And the Grundle's defenders men fighting shoulder to shoulder with Marcus, they're essentially fighting to their last man. Down to their last 1000 HP and 25 unit models, they are just bogging down these Necropolis Knights, slowly but surely dragging them down, and Cetra is slowly crumbling after charging into some spears and taking a little bit more damage from them. And the Grundle's defenders, they are refusing to back down, allowing Marcus Wolfheart to fight these Necropolis Knights, knocking down another model from these last bit of tattered Tomb King's Construct Cavalry. Then Marcus stabbed that War Sphinx in the toe once again, getting knocked flying but not before doing another 200 something damage. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that was just enough to tip that balance of power into army losses. GG to my opponent Nurgle's PA, and that was a really close battle. I almost thought I lost it with all my missiles gone, being routed off by the Ushaptis, the Necropolis Knights, and Cetra himself, but in the end, the halberdiers and most importantly the Grundle's defenders with their immune to psychology held on, keep dragging down those Tomb King's constructs with their anti-large and armor piercing, allowing me to turn the tide around with Marcus running out of ammo but not running out of spirit, pulling out his sword and stabbed that Cambrian War Sphinx in its toe, bringing down those Tomb King's constructs 200 HP at a time. Definitely a good chunk of his damage value was done in melee, and of course his missile attacks as well. Despite missing so many times, he did take out quite a few of those construct models and chip away Cetra's health with his abilities. As for the Bright Wizard, mostly just clearing out enemy infantry chaff there, just thinning out those skeleton spear support, doing some okay damage, not the most amazing but good enough to kill off the infantry, allowing all the spears and halberdiers in the end to isolate and bring down those Tomb King's construct, the Necropolis Knights and the Ushapti's melee version. As for the missiles here, unfortunately the Silver Bullet was quickly routed off by Cetra, but the Hawkline Long Rifles and the Great Cannons not earning back their value, but the important thing is that they eliminated the Ushaptis early, hammering down one of them and also severely damaging the Chosen of the Gods, allowing one of the Empire Knights to regroup and chase them down, and I feel like that was the game-winning moment for me, as my state troops were able to fight on without being bombarded by enemy artillery, and that was the only reason I was able to drag down the Tomb King's constructs in the melee fights. Otherwise, I would just get shot to death by those Ushapti Great Bows. As for the Tomb King's army, Cetra definitely did a lot of good damage there, running straight into the center of my box, shutting down my Silver Bullets and then the constructs as well, especially the Ushapti melee ones, able to run down my Hawkline Rifles and then chase down my routed Silver Bullets and Great Cannons, getting some solid damage value over the course of battle. However, the rest of the army here, the Spears, the Skeleton Horsemen, and the Halberd Necropolis Knights were quite disappointing in terms of their damage value, not quite able to earn back their worth, as they were being surrounded and dragged down by all that anti-large presence on my end in the late game. Also being shot by Marcus doesn't help. In the post-battle analysis between me and Nurgle's PA, we did agree that the Grundle's defenders might have made all the difference in the late game there, and Cetra shouldn't have used his magic on all those Curse Blades incantation, and instead Osirian's incantation of vengeance against the Grundle's defenders, draining them down would have been much better. But yeah, still, overall a very close game, very fun, very scrappy. Massive thanks to Nurgle's PA for the great game here, and that shall be it for today's battles. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more Total War Warhammer multiplayer action, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.